Hi guys, we will start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargoed section at 10:30pm tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section and use the microphone provided. Gary?
That's the most low-key news conference arrival I've ever seen.
Sorry?
Caught us all unawares.
No, okay. There's no usually grand entrance or bells and whistles, mate. It's just me. Sorry you're disappointed.
Sorry.
You too.
With Kulusevski, just give us the latest update.
Yeah, look, obviously disappointing news. Initially we kind of thought it wasn't too serious because obviously the medical team was sort of worried about kind of structurally how the knee was, but it seemed pretty good. But it kind of blew up the day after, and we kind of knew there was an issue there. So he's had surgery, and they put him out for at least a few months.
So, okay for the start of next season?
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've only got sort of basic information at the moment in terms of recovery, but certainly put him out for a while.
There's another injury in that specific part of the pitch. How's your luck?
Look, I mean, it's just, I guess it's just reflective and consistent with everything else sort of happened this season. I've said a few times we just haven't had a smooth run at things. Every time we look like we're kind of getting to a place where, we're looking in decent shape squad-wise or even sort of personnel-wise. Invariably, we've been hit, and obviously the last few weeks, again, it's just circumstance that it's happened probably in the one area of the park.
Can I ask you about Lucas Bergwall? Because we thought that he was out the rest of the season, but there's some suggestion floating around that he might have made an incredibly fast recovery and might be available at some point.
No, it's sort of still the same sort of time frame. It was never like a long-term one, but he's literally just got out of the boot and, just sort of taking his first tentative steps on the grass, but unlikely to be, won't be available.
So in terms of this balancing act, obviously massive game we're not here to talk about now, next week.
Mm-hmm.
Does the integrity of the competition at all come into it? You know how big the game is for Tottenham and for Manchester United, but United have got Chelsea, you've got Villa, the other teams in that fight in the top five are probably going to watch what teams you put out, how you perform. Is that a consideration?
No, I think we're certainly going to go out there and try and win the game tomorrow and put out a team that hopefully gets that job done. I'm not sure about the integrity. I think there have been times this year when we've had to field weakened teams because of injury. Does that affect integrity? So, people are thinking that there's some sort of competitive balance that exists. That doesn't exist over the course of a season. So I'll be very surprised if people are questioning our integrity to try and win a game of football tomorrow.
I wasn't questioning it. I'm assuming you'll put out the team that you think can win the game.
Yeah, I'll put the team out that I think will do its best to win a game of football, yeah.
Shall we?
Hi, Ange. Aston Villa obviously are guaranteed a spot in Europe next season. Of course, they're still pushing for a Champions League spot. I know you said after the game against Crystal Palace you weren't so happy with how some of the players who did come into the starting lineup performed. What do you want to see from the players who do play tomorrow night, from your point of view?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I mean, we understand the sort of the challenging situation we're in, and particularly the players, because when you're making sort of 7 or 8 changes in a team lineup, sort of throwing players together, it is very difficult for them. But even within that context, I still felt we could have performed better on the day, collectively and individually, and that's a challenge for the players, to try and seize the opportunity that's before them. There's a game tomorrow where obviously we want to, try and perform well and pick up a result, but also an opportunity for them to kind of put their name forward for, the big game the following week, because as we've already seen in the past couple of weeks, as much as you like to think there's an ideal starting lineup, things happen and players will have to be ready for that. And tomorrow night's an opportunity for those guys to sort of put their hand up.
With all of these spate of injuries, I mean, how has that affected the morale of the team? Because it seems like whenever you've done really well in Europa League, you lose a key player. And what has it done for yourself in terms of being able to plan ahead to the next game?
Look, I guess because it's been a constant with us during the year, we've kind of become almost accustomed to it. And I think it would probably be a bigger issue if sort of we've had a smooth run all year and sort of got hit with injuries now, and we kind of had to deal with missing key players. But we've pretty much been without key players the whole season. There hasn't been a time where you kind of go, oh, we've had a 3 or 4 week spell with our strongest lineup fairly settled. So yeah, the boys are sort of getting on with it. They're disappointed for the people involved. Obviously, Decky being the latest one, because he had a fantastic sort of first part of the year for us and was just working his way back into it. But at the same time, as I keep saying to the group all along, you can't pick and choose when these opportunities come along. There could be other years where we don't have these disruptions and don't have injuries, but we don't get to a final. So the reality of it is now the opportunity's there, and whatever happens between now and then, we've got to make sure we're ready for it.
I know you mentioned Dejan Kulusevski is out for this game and for the next couple of months. In terms of Son Heung-min, could he make the starting lineup tomorrow? Is he fit enough? Has he progressed enough?
He'll definitely play tomorrow. Whether we start with him or not, we'll have a look at. But he definitely he reacted well to sort of playing the other day. There was no issues with his foot. He's trained well, and it makes sense for him to get more match minutes. Could be as a starter. If not, he'll definitely play at least half a game tomorrow.
Hi there, Ange. Just away from the club, or momentarily anyway, I just wondered what you made of Josh Keeley and Jamie Donnelly and how they've done getting through to the playoff final.
Yeah, watched the game last night. It was a cracking game, and super pleased for both of them. When players go on loan, obviously the key for it is for them to get sort of match minutes and development. I think both of those guys have, but it's even better if they're sort of part of something that could be special for them in terms of success. I think that helps as well in terms of their own sort of self-belief and being part of something successful. So super pleased for them. It'll be a great occasion, and hopefully they get through.
You see them both having a future, a long-term future at Tottenham?
Look, I think with all these things, they're for the sort of the off-season when guys come back. Right now, our focus is pretty much fairly on what's happening in the next 2 weeks.
On your squad right now, there's one player obviously we haven't seen for a while. It's Timo Werner. I think it's 3 months since the last time he was in the
injured,
squad.
mate. He's injured. He's got a hamstring injury, yeah.
All right, that's the answer to that. Thank you.
George, please.
Hi, Ange. In terms of Dejan, obviously he's hugely disappointed. I mean, how kind of gutted are you for him, especially given kind of the journey he's had this season, how key he's been as well for this run? Yeah,
look, gutted for him, gutted for Lucas, and gutted for Matters and Radu, and because, and again, say all 4 of those, it's not like, knock on wood, we've had enough of those, but it's not like a muscle injury or anything. It's just, just circumstance, stuff that, probably happens every football game, but doesn't have the damage that, and unfortunately for them, it came at the wrong time of the year. So, gutted for Decky, because like I said, I thought there was real growth in him this year. We kind of, sort of integrated him to a new position, which I think he was really getting to grips with and really making an impact. And I think he's grown as a player this year. He captained his country, and then sort of got hit with a foot injury, which set him back. But then, typical of him, he worked hard at rehab, and it was really important for us away at Bodo, and sort of started looking like he was getting back to himself, which would have been great for us. So for him to get another setback is disappointing, and but he's a very mentally he's a very strong guy, and I'm sure he'll use this as a catalyst to come back stronger.
Just in terms of a timeline here, and you mentioned a few months. I mean, you type in that surgery online, which is never a good thing, and it comes up with 6 to 12 months. You don't expect it to be as long as that, or as soon?
No, it wouldn't be sort of nowhere near as 12 months. But again, me putting a time frame on it wouldn't be right, because it's something that that we'll get sort of. He only had the surgery yesterday. We'll get some more information, and a lot of that just depends on how players sort of progress. But it's fair to say months, but how many months I wouldn't speculate at the moment.
And you use 3 players that started at Bodo against Palace, or started them. The other 7 outfield players, will they all be expected to play some sort of type of minutes tomorrow? Is there 1 or 2 you might try and keep out?
Yeah, we'll see. Kind of got training today, and like I said, it's a bit of a balancing act. We obviously tried to navigate that last week by protecting a few, which we had to, and it still didn't work out. We still lost the player. So I'll sort of take all that into consideration over the next sort of few hours.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the Embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Dan?
Kulusevski, Madison and Bergwijn, does that give you a kind of creativity problem, and what are possible solutions to that issue?
Yeah, look, it sort of gives you a little bit more of a challenge because they all sort of play in that area, and not exactly the same players, but like I said, they're all sort of the creative types in midfield and filled that role really well for us this year at different times. So yeah, just another challenge. But like I said, that's been a constant this year. We've always had to sort of try and find creative ways of covering the absences we've had, and we'll find a way to do that as well.
In kind of different circumstances, I guess, if you lose 3 players in a similar position, you could think about a radical solution, a change of formation or something. Is it that feasible for a final, or is that just too much of a risk?
Look, no, it's, again, you sort of factor it all into it. I doubt you'd do a serious departure from sort of what we have been doing in terms of our overall structure. But as I said, you have to sort of, at the same time, find some solutions within the context of what we have available to give us our best chance of success. And that'll depend sort of on, we're going to get through the game tomorrow night, see what the wash-up from that is, and then we can try a couple of things tomorrow night to see how they work, and then kind of make our decisions from there.
Tom?
You talk about sort of radical solutions, maybe not so much to the formation structure, but what about Don playing deeper, or Pedro moving into attacking? He's a very creative player. Are any of those things on the table, or is it again too late to sort of go down that path?
No, I think it's all in the realms of, you kind of, when you're in this position, we've always been in this position, you kind of go through all the different sort of scenarios, and like I said, a lot of it will depend sort of, let's see how we get through tomorrow night, see how people get through the game, because there's obviously a few players who, will play tomorrow night who, haven't played regularly or a lot lately that get an opportunity, and, there could be a performance tonight that kind of convinces me to go one way or another, tomorrow night, sorry, and, but you consider it all. As I said, I think, at the same time, even if you do something radical, whether it's positional change, it's always better done within the confines of still having a real solid foundation there. So foundationally, we're not going to change anything there in terms of the way we play, the way we kind of set up for the most part. If you do that, then if it's one positional change for a player, then that still has the possibility of working.
You talked about what you expect from Sonny tomorrow night. Despite not having creative midfielders at the moment, on the left-hand side, actually, you've got quite a lot of options if he's back fit with Richie and Matisse as well. But I wonder, with Son's ability to sort of unlock defences with his technical ability, his passing, given what you're facing at the moment in the middle, does that sort of make his involvement even more important?
Again, absolutely fantastic to have him available, and like I said, he's he's got the experience, but B, like I said, he does have that creative ability, so that's the first thing. But again, game tomorrow night, need to get him some match minutes, need to see how he is. I've never sort of tried to kind of look too far into the future in terms of what we might do, but if nothing else, this year's taught me that our planning at the moment is pretty much a day-to-day proposition. Let's get through training today, and everyone gets through, and then let's get through the game tomorrow, and then post-game tomorrow we can start looking at those kind of things.
And just finally, on Sonny, there's some reports back in Korea that he's had this incident in his personal life with going to the police, potentially over someone. The whole story, I don't know if you're aware of it. I'm going to detail. Is there anything you can...
No.
Is he fine?
No, mate. I'm not even going to sort of go down that track. It's not something I would talk to him about unless he came to me, and my understanding is it's a legal issue, so I wouldn't touch it, mate.
Andrew, just can I take you back to the balancing act, really, just about tomorrow night? I guess sharpness must come into it a bit, or kind of just worried because of the injury.
Look, in a normal world, John, you're kind of use tomorrow night as sharpening up, but we're not living in a normal world. That's the reality of our sort of existence at the moment, where we can't afford to lose another player to an injury. It's just too finely balanced for us at the moment with what's at stake. in terms of, Villa are obviously going for Champions League football, and you see how important it is to them. We're doing the same. We're going.
Just going back to Kula, I mean, that's the reminder, isn't it? That basically, if anyone needed it.
Well, yeah, I mean, not that we needed it. We've had plenty of evidence for it, but and it also shows you that you can plan as much as you like. And like I said, the idea of playing sort of Pedro and Rodri and Decky last week for 45 minutes was that, Pedro's very resilient. He's played every game this year, so we're less concerned about him. Rodrigo's pretty resilient as well, and with him it was only going to be 45. And the same with Decky, but Decky was more that he hasn't played, so it made sense for him to have a game. And as I said, if it's kind of a muscle injury, then you question, did we do the right thing? But it's something that, he probably gets tackled like that, 20 times a season, nothing happens. So it seems to be that's our sort of lot at the moment, where we're just sort of, even with the best planning, still getting hit with these setbacks. And I think, from my perspective, I've got to take that into account when considering the game tomorrow night.
John?
Is it the concept of this integrity of the game? Is it a completely fake thing? Managers should be able to do what they want, shouldn't they? You should play every team you want.
Well, I'm not sure what people are talking about when they talk about the integrity of the game. I mean, I don't know what that means. Like I said, if we've certainly had put our teams this year that, because of our injury situation, were not sort of the strongest teams we needed to put out there, but we still had to play those games, and it's the same with other clubs. So I'm not really sure what the integrity. I mean, I don't even know why that question's been asked, to be honest, because if people think we're going to go out there tomorrow night and not give our absolute best to win a game of football, then I'm not really sure. I think that's the only time integrity gets questioned. I mean, when we played Man City last year and apparently I was in the wrong trying to win a game of football, that's where integrity comes into it, and that's why I was so strong on it. But I think when you put out a lineup out there, you're trying to win a game of football. But at the same time, every club has got its own interests. And you've got to prioritise what's important for your club. As I said, Champions League is very important for all those clubs fighting for it at the moment. I can see how important it is, and every game for them is crucial, and everything they do every decision is crucial. We're in exactly the same boat. We've got Champions League qualifications plus a trophy to win. It would be negligent of me if I wasn't doing the best thing for our football club to make sure we achieve that.
Matt?
And just on Decky, was it just a kick? Was it just a freakish?
Yeah, just a freakish. I mean, it was just a collision between him and I think Mark Gay, where it wasn't even a foul, I don't think. But it looked like his knee hit sort of Mark's hip bone, and it's just, we've had a look at the vision, and it's just one of those inadvertent things, and it's just bad luck.
On other things, you're going to tell me.
Don't tell me what I'm going to tell you, mate. Or else there's no point in me being here. Just do it yourself. Write your piece and we're away.
How do the next 5 to 6 days pan out? Beyond Villa, can you get a rest in? Do you keep training? When do you go to Spain?
Yeah, we've kind of mapped it out. But as I said, it's a bit of a day-to-day proposition. A lot will depend on sort of what I decide about tomorrow night and who plays and who doesn't, and then sort of making sure that the guys who don't, who potentially will be involved on Wednesday, we get some good training into them, because I think that's important. But our program at the moment is, all things being equal, we obviously do the Villa game tomorrow night. We won't get back till late. Saturday will be sort of rest day for the players. We'll train Sunday. Sunday will be a good session for us, and then train here Monday morning and then fly out to Bilbao Monday afternoon. Get to Bilbao and then sort of have a run on the pitch the night before in Bilbao, and then sort of the game Wednesday.
But in your experience, is this a sort of time for great rallying speeches and oratory, or a chance to do something different, or is it important to...
Look, I think it's just, again, my experience with these things, you just got to you got to read the moment. I think, again, it's very hard to sort of pre-plan these things, because it just there may be a catalyst for something, that happens that changes that whatever the need it is for the players. My role in that is just to, as I said, take it a day by day proposition and try and sort of read what the players really need. It's about them, and we'll certainly, once the Villa game's done and we sort of do our reviews, that then our focus turns to sort of the main game, and every day will be important in terms of preparing the players for that and what that needs and what that looks like. Intuitively, I usually kind of just go with my gut. As we move along, there'll be a couple of things planned that we need to sort of make sure we do, and some of it's just sort of not isolating but protecting the players, because there's a lot more demands. There already has been. We've had media all week, obviously, and more demands on players. I'm sure they're getting inundated with ticket requests and people. So a lot of it is sort of logistically as well, just to make sure that what we have around the players sort of insulates them from being taken away from what's important, and that's preparing for a big game.
Thank you.
Thank you.